I'm probably not going to start there. I'll probably start with why I even got into this space, right? And for me, I always think that's important about why we do what we do. What is the motivation to getting to this point? So some people will conclude that, it's a wave, it's a trend, right? There's blockchain, cryptocurrency, all of these things are happening at this time. And that's why everyone's kind of doing it. But for me, the journey goes back to 2012, right? So this journey starts with an epiphany where I was already in another business. So I don't know, Ben, if you remember, you came down to Harley Street. Yeah. And I had an alternative investment business, which allowed us to kind of look at various sectors and industries and find different ways of investing into those markets. And during that period, I had a health scare. And so when I had that health scare, I started to think, very deeply about what the future looks like. Because that's what happens. When things happen with your health, you start to think really deep about what you want to do with your life. And when that happened, I realized that I do want to have children. I want to get settled one day. And then immediately thought, what does a will look like, right? So one thing you can't do with wills or death is you cannot predict them. Because if we all could predict them, right, we'd have very, very different lives right now based on what our ancestors done. And so I thought, if we've gone through a world where there's been different cycles, right, there will continue to be different cycles as we go forward, right? That's not about to change because of the generation. And what that looked like for me was, first cycle is, hunter-gatherers, right? And then you move from that to bartering, right? And then from bartering, you move from exchanging silver with gold, right? And then you move from gold that is essentially become the backup for fiat currency, okay? And then from there, you move into digital economy. So if I ask myself the question, this Bitcoin feed kept on popping up, right, in my day-to-day running of business affairs. And I thought, let me look at this thing. And it became very clear to me that that was the future. When I reconciled it to the kind of future that I envisioned, what does the future look like for me? It became very clear that money and our whole economic system was going to change. And so I started taking a chance on it, right? And the chance I actually took with cryptocurrency didn't start with investment. It actually started with mining of it. And because my thinking was those who built long-term infrastructure in the gold rush were the people that were basically selling the shovels. It wasn't the people that had the gold bars, it was those who were contributing the infrastructure. And so I quickly thought about that, and I thought, okay, let me understand what it feels to mine the future, and got into that. I personally invested in Bitcoin when it was like $200 to $300, right? So I was early. I also came out very early, which was very sad. And that kind of was very, very, should I say, traumatic for some time until I got over it. But that led me into the space. And then in parallel to that, really being in the tech space, mainly from a consultative perspective. And so, that was working with UK-based entities who wanted to get into LA, right? And so my network was something that was really valuable to these businesses, from a network perspective, from a fundraising perspective, from a partnership perspective. That, to be honest with you, is my superpower, right? That's the t-shirt today, right? The superpower really is people, right? Community and people is my superpower. And so that was kind of where this journey started, really. And alongside that, as you know, when you're in the diaspora, you always come back home. Home is where the heart is, right? And so, I've lived in Ghana, I have studied in Ghana at some point, And then also I've lived on the other side, right? And every time I come to Ghana, things are changing. Every time you come, 5 years, even if now, especially now, it's probably moving even quicker. Every 2 years you come, things keep changing, right? Worlds become so small. And so with that in mind, I'm always thinking when I go out and I come in, what could be done in Ghana? That's usually what most people are thinking about. What can I do when I come back home, right? And through my, should I say, network and partnerships and businesses that I'm involved in, through a very, very good friend of mine. He's very quiet, but you'll get to know him. So that man there with the cap that says legend, who's literally a legend in my life, right? His name's George Hughes. We met quite a while back. So his, should I say, best friend is a very, very close person to me. They're both very close to me. And they said, hey, we are working with these guys in Silicon Valley, and his word is the gospel to me. I would fly out if George tells me something is happening in a space that he thinks I'll be interested in. So I flew out to LA, and he said, I think that this is going to change the world, right? But it wasn't so much about it being in the Web3 space, but it was more the approach, right? The ecosystem that Harmony was developing was a very big idea, right? And I like big things. I'm a tall guy, as you can imagine. Right? I don't like small things. And so I basically decided that, let me see these guys and let me see what George is talking about. And first time I sat down, my first meeting, George, was first meeting with Z, or was it, I think it was with Z, right? First meeting with Z, you see Z's energy, high tempo, and this guy literally looked me in the eye and said, just forget what you're doing, just come and partner with us and let's go to Africa. That was like the first meeting, right? He's like, we've got to go to Africa together, we've got to take this full steam, this is what we're doing, right? And being the cautious Ghanaian that I am, I said, no, let me give this a bit more time. Went to a couple of conferences, really got to understand what the culture was about. It was all about culture, right? You need to understand what people's principles are. Because one thing I'm not going to do, and they all know, and I said it at the Ethereum Denver conference, come to Africa, come to Ghana to learn to understand. Do not learn to take advantage of us, right? That's our principle, that's our mandate as Ghanaians and Africans who want to prosper this nation, okay? And so when I go and I look for partners, I'm looking for partners who are looking to create a win-win scenario. And that's what I got when I went to Silicon Valley and sat down with Steve and Harmony and the whole entire team. That became very clear. So with that, the conclusion was, how are we going to build that into this ecosystem? And the name was really inspired by that. Ghana Unity DAO is because the objective is for there to be unity in Ghana through technology, right? That's the objective, that's the vision, okay? And we want the Ghana Unity DAO to become a Y Combinator, if you want to call it that. I don't know, most people should be familiar with Y Combinator, but essentially it's an incubator. And so we want it to be a Web3 incubator, which becomes a resource. What we're not doing is we're not shoving this down everyone's throat to say, this is what you have to do. No, what we're saying is that the world's moving, we need to move, right? We want to be innovative, and we want to be able to understand and draw a pool of talent within our community, either builders, right? Either entrepreneurs, right? Or either social impact initiatives, right? And as you heard, we have large resources available. Now we have to find a way to integrate those resources into our society, right? And that's what we're doing with Harmony. So the partnership with Harmony really is to really further that vision so that we can become an incubator. For those of you here who have projects, for those of you here who are curious, for those of you here who just seek information, we want Ghana Unity DAO to be that resource. We are not, our foundations are not solely commercially led. It's impact focused, right? And so the hope is that this will grow further and we'll be in a position where this will become a trusted resource in conjunction with the government, community, and the private sector. And then from there, we're able to see some amazing private businesses or private initiatives come to light, right? And so if I had to put it in summary what the Ghana Unity DAO is, that is basically what it comes down to. It is a resource in Web3, right? We want to give you the best and accurate information. We want to pour out the right resources. We've got Jake Bajako here, right? A very good friend of mine's, and what he's doing with the head of youth and engagement is very important because the youth is what we have, right? I'll conclude on a very final message that the youth is going to drive this continent. That is what's going to happen. And if the youth are going to drive this continent, we need to equip the youth with the right resources. That is what Ghana Unity DAO is going to serve Ghana and hopefully the rest of the continent through Web3. Thank you.